Okay, so, we know that we've been, when I first came, one of the first things that was said was, yeah, we've been thinking about building for all these years and we just don't know, is it time to do something? So the only way to figure out if it is time or not is to do some work in that direction. So thanks to our build and repair team, they were able to come together. We started out with 2 separate teams, and then we realized we were using a lot of the same resources, so we combined the team. So we had all those folks kind of meeting together once a month. We started out dreaming, some reality hit, and we were like, maybe, maybe more of this, and anyway, we've done a lot of thinking, talking. What you hold before you is just what it says. It's proposals. It is nothing that is in concrete. It is all just, this is where we started, and there's a process to this. So what we will do is, also when I send out this email, it will notify everybody of this April 2nd meeting, okay, to go to all membership. And even those who attend regularly who aren't members, it goes to everybody like that. And immediately following worship, we will have a meeting on April 2nd. Now that has to be done as part of our process, according to the Book of Discipline. So we have to let everybody know in 3 ways. So it's here, it'll be in our, it was announced over the pulpit, and it will go on Facebook. So there's 3 different ways, as well as email. So we got 4 different ways actually that it's gonna go out. And we will notify folks that way. After that, so we will vote on what are we gonna do? Are we gonna do one of these 3 things? And which one is it? And then from there, it will go, Bernie is actually the chairperson of our district location and building committee. And so he will then take that to the committee and say, hey, we're gonna have some stuff we have to do in that interim time, and then he will take it there for their approval or disapproval. Are they doing something that they really can handle, kind of stuff. And then it'll come back to us, and we'll build teams around what we're gonna do. So it's not something that like this fall, we're gonna do whatever, it's gonna take us a little while. And there's the fundraising part of it too, which we know is a huge part of it. So, let's see. So we wanna make sure that we're asking questions, that we're opening the dreaming part up again. Okay, like I said, this is just some ideas that we've had. It's general ideas. Doesn't have to be exactly as we've got it on here. It's just a place to start. Okay. Originally, I said that the pastor should not do this, but here I am, because people don't like to talk in front of people. So you get the pastor. I cannot vote, and I have no. It doesn't affect me. Don't make this sound bad. It doesn't affect me one way or the other what you guys do. Like, there is no better option when it comes to my place as your pastor. It's whatever you guys decide, and I just follow along and guide you through that and help you build the teams you need to help that happen. So we are going to start with our build new in place of 1909 building. And what we found was that to take down only that building, leave this side, to take down only that building, prepare the dirt for a new building that would be like similar to a Morton building. It's a steel building, freestanding basically, but it's connected. So we have to have engineers come in, make sure all the walls are okay. Can we build this way? Can we put this roof there? Can we do that? All those things have to be done. Prepare the soil would be about $800,000. And then to put the basic pole building and to finish it would be another 1.9 million. And then there would be some landscaping and stuff to happen. So that's as far as we went with that one, because that could go anywhere, right? You find in the back that there is a little drawing. It is nothing, again, it's just, okay, here's what and I think I did this 80 by 80. Here's an 80 by 80 building. What can we get in there? So this is just kind of a overview of what could be. Obviously, the rooms might not be the same size. They might be different places. We might not have some of them. But it's just kind of a place to start. If we went with this proposal, on this one, this where we're at right now would become utility and storage, because we lose the attic if we lose the 1909 building. So half of this would become like for furnaces and hot water heaters and all those kind of things, and half would become storage. Thereabouts half. It might be a little bit more storage than that, but it'd be a place for Trevor to keep all his stuff for maintenance and for upkeep of the building as well. So that's kind of what this space would do. We're just gonna skim through all three of these, and then we'll take questions and see what else happens here. Now, if we did repair to the 1909 building, it would also include some repair to this side of the building, because we have damage in the sanctuary from leaks in the roof, including the wall with the glass in it, one of the beams, some of our pews. So we have damage there, so we would need to fix some of that. There's many of these tiles, especially on that side, that need to be replaced. So when we did the estimate for that, for these things, that's all wrapped up in these different estimates. But we also had to phase, if we repair, we also put it in phases, because there are some very critical things that have to be done, no holds barred. We have to find the money for that. And that is to tuck point and either repair or replace the roof. That is number one. Because we still have water leaking, like where the building joins, if the wind is just right and the rain is just right. So we still have it coming into our walls on that side, where that ramp starts, where the landing to the ramp is. There's still water that comes in there as well. So the tuck point estimate came in at $42,000, and that was to tuck point, and then the roof estimate includes gutters, and that was on a repair. We also discussed, what if we put a steel roof on both? We did not get that estimate in. If we did that, your maintenance is pretty minimal past installing it. But it's gonna jack the price up, the initial cost. But it would save much of our problems with our pitch and the way we leak in between the buildings. Also, there is no insulation in the sanctuary ceiling. It is the sheeting that you see, and then the shingles. So if we did a steel roof, it would give us opportunity to insulate, to lay like the insulation board down, and before we put the steel on. So it would insulate that roof and help us hold in some of our cool and warm air. The second thing on the priority list, which is still part of phase one, is our windows. When we had the lady come to estimate our stained glass windows, I'm sure you guys have seen, we have some windows that are bowing. They aren't holding, the lead in them has deteriorated. And so we have windows that need to just be taken out, taken to Omaha, laid out in their space where they can take care of those things, and they will completely redo them so that we can preserve them. That does not come cheaply. The price that we have here for $76,400, that is for all the exterior. That's for the south and east windows in 1909 building. So it includes the pastor's office and stuff. if we replaced all of them. However, we also talked about, do we replace the ones on the front and install energy efficient windows that we can see out of on the south side, at least part of them. So that would change, and it would take the cost down. It'd be about $2,500 for the south windows. It also includes, this estimate also includes labor, because the windows wouldn't, like now, would not, we wouldn't see all of them from the inside, so we would cover that top part with like insulation board and plywood and make it look nice, but it would cover that. The ones on the west, this includes also, they are already gone and covered, but the covering is sagging, it's coming loose. When the wind blows, Martha's afraid that the bookcase is gonna fall on top of her, because the wall actually moves like this when the wind blows from the west. So there are, like we said, things that have to be done, but that would include repairing that as well, and putting new boards up there and sealing that up better. And then if we just repaired the east glass and the stained glass, that would be $28,900. So that cuts our costs significantly, to not replace all of the stained glass and to put some, like I said, regular windows, double hung, those type of things that we could, or some of them would just be a solid window. Like if you're in a big space, it might just be a solid window that didn't open and shut. And let's see, then we also have some grading. If you haven't been in the back lately, our retaining wall back here is starting to kind of fall out and the bricks are coming off, so we need to do some grading back there. There's also a way that we could take, as we do that, add some parking for accessibility back here, behind the memory garden. So that $10,000 is basically replacing the retaining wall and looking at getting more parking down here on the bottom. So that's phase one. Then phase two, which is significantly higher because we have more stuff in it. Security is one thing, and that's been an issue, especially with the offices in the back. We don't know what's going on in the building when we're here, and there's been a few very uncomfortable cases of folks walking in the building. So we want it accessible to everybody when we're here, but we also need some security on that. So to put in cameras on all doors, and then go to a key fob system, so we also know that there are keys floating around that have been lost, that we don't know where they are. A lot of people have keys or have, again, lost keys. So this would be a key fob system. So you would have a little fob you can like put on your keychain, and you just put that up to the little pad when you go to walk in the door, and you can get in. Now each one of your fobs would have your own special code on it. So if you lose your fob, all we have to do is go in the computer and say, shut this off, put her number on this one, and now your fob works for you and you only. And the one you lost is no more. And if you ever find it again, we can reprogram it with another number, but it just keeps us from, it keeps us accountable for all our ability to get into the building. It would also put a camera on her, because there's 8 cameras total, so all exterior doors and one that would come down on our electronic stuff. That's our media stuff in the back. Phase 2 would move the offices, bathrooms, and lounge. So it would move, and you can see this on the remodel that's of the 1909. Next to the last page, or last page, I think that is. So, as you can see, so this would be where the offices, the pastor and secretary offices are now. This would become the lounge, conference room, and bride's room. The bathroom that is here this door come out and open into that area, so if we have brides in there, they have access to a bathroom where they don't have to walk out into the general public. The nursery would essentially stay the same. I want that to be my touch screen, even when it's not. This door, we would hopefully be able to have a ramp of some kind that came out of there so this space is accessible. If we did this, then that's the only space we're heating up. If we have meetings and stuff, we're not like heating the old building. We're just heating this space. Pastor's office would be on one end. See, I'm trying to move it there. Pastor's office would be on one end of what is now the lounge. Secretaries on the other. We'd incorporate storage. Make sure there's windows in all the doors. Part of the security system would be that for all of these doors, Martha in her room, when we're here, she would be able to have a push button that would open those doors, so nobody has access to the church without us knowing about it again. I think we talked about not doing this one, but doing that one, so that there's not open access to the rest of the church when somebody comes in to see us. And again, hopefully we can have some kind of a ramp here that meets up with the other one. The bookcases would stay here. Part of this, which I think it says at some point, is in order to know exactly where we can put an elevator or what of this we can even do, we have to hire an architectural engineer, which is $6,000 to $10,000, just to get them to come and hang out with us for a day and figure out what's going on. And then they'll go back and say, after they've done all their testing of the load on the walls and all those, yes, you can move this wall, you can't move that one. This works, this is stable, this isn't. So it'll tell us where an elevator can be. So as we said again, the nursery would be in this scenario. Okay, the nursery would basically be the same, as well as that room with the, that is now got the cribs in it, so the cribs would stay in there. And we would put a curtain across here with a couple rockers so that that can be used as a breastfeeding room. If we're talking about encouraging young families to be a part of us, that's something that most folks who have young ones miss in public buildings, is a space where they can feel like they can breastfeed their babies. So a rocker or two in there. You will see 3 bathrooms into this hall, and those would be unisex, simply because some days it's all ladies here. Some days it's all guys here. Some days it's a mixture of all of them. We don't have lines lined up and we don't need to. We have dads that change diapers. So they'd have changing stations in the bathrooms, and all those kind of things. But they would all be able to be unisex. One would be ADA compliant, which means it has to be at least 60 inches by 56 inches plus room for the appliances, the sink and the toilet. So that would be this bathroom. The other 2 would be smaller. Right now we have the elevator sitting right here, which would basically bring us down into this area. It would be a 3 to 4 stop elevator, probably a 4 stop, so that we have access to the administrative level, the sanctuary level, the Sunday school level, and this level. So that will drive our price up just a little bit. Instead of the 110 as a low, we'd probably be closer to that 150. But that makes everything accessible without too steep a ramps. This would continue to be the entry to the narthex. Okay. That took care of the elevator, heating and cooling. Currently, the pastor's offices and secretary's office has no heating. So the 6,000 would be to heat and cool that room, would be $6,000. Which would then be the lounge, because we'd have to put in a new unit. And then we're also, right now, there's a 30%, I think Casey said, break on going geothermal. And so we would like to explore going geothermal for what it's gonna cost us a little bit more initially, but over the long haul would save us money. And we can be zonal, so that, you know, we only do the offices, or we only do this. Without having multiple units, it would be all back in the corner. So anyway, that's something we haven't explored completely. We just tossed it around. So that would be phase 2, and then phase 3 would be taking care of the water damage, doing any outdoor landscaping and improvements that need, you know, fixing up the memory garden again, and then to upgrade the bathroom, replace the toilets, make the stalls larger. We talked about doing one handicap in each room and in each bathroom, and then another single stall in the women's. And we talked about we probably would need to widen the doorway, because even this doorway is not wide enough for a wheelchair. And we know, you know, we have Zach that comes once in a while, Max that comes once in a while now. His wheelchair wouldn't fit through that door. So, you know, it's just something to think in. The other thing is the carillons, and that's probably not gonna cost us anything. If it did, it would be maybe up to $500. It's probably a wiring issue. So Robin has talked to folks about it, and they thought they had it fixed, and then they didn't, so it's just gonna be looking at that. So that would take care of a remodel, thereabouts. So total cost, the me that doesn't do math is gonna tell you what the total cost looks like. I think we figured about, I think we decided we'd say 700,000 to pad it just a little bit for all 3 phases. It's gonna be a little less than that, but right now, construction costs are fluctuating. The supplies are really fluctuating. So like concrete went up, but 2x4s went down, and you know, so we don't know what's gonna be what. There was a third proposal, and that was to buy a new property and to build new. So we'd sell these 2 buildings and the adjacent property, estimated around $3 million to buy a lot and put up the new build and finish it, and it would be using like a pole type building that we could finish off the front. So it didn't look like we need to bring our tractor to church, but would still be a nice building. And then you'll find that under that you have your stained glass breakdown, the security breakdown, and then talking about the funding. You will also find reflections from the team at the bottom of that last page of typing. As a team, when we looked at this and we looked at the finances of the church, if we look at the fact that we're not quite meeting our budget every year and those kind of things, our reserves are essentially gone, that we're not sure that we're good stewards if we promoted anything other than remodeling. Obviously, the team's part of the vote, but they are not the only ones voting. So that's totally up to everybody else. I mean, if somebody wants to write us $1 million check, we can work on some things. I'm glad to buy you a cup of coffee. But, you know, that's just not realistic. And we have to look at culture. When they first started talking about this, like 2014, 15, 16, maybe a little bit before, when we first started talking about this, average attendance 80 to 85, even to 90. The culture has changed, not just of church, but of community and priorities and all those things. So if we aren't, we don't know what's next, So I think while we're planning for the future, we have to see what God's telling us about that planning and how God's calling us to faithfully go forward. And that doesn't necessarily mean the biggest thing. It means what's best for us, and how do we best become accessible to a whole community. Remember last year what did we do last year? This year last year we treasured Oakland. This year we are lifting Oakland up and showing them what an amazing community they are. And that doesn't mean going into so much debt that we can't continue to help folks here in town or in our Riverside community. But we also want to offer a safe space for all those things that they have to do. So, team, what did I miss? I can see that far. I have my glasses on. Did I miss anything? Trevor? Roger? Dave? Brett?
Good job.
Crystal? See, these are all the people that didn't want to talk. So, questions from you guys then, and they'll help me answer the questions.
What if we can't be here April 2nd? Can we still vote some other way?
No.
Yeah.
Nope, it has to be in person.
Okay.
It has to be as part of the church conference.
And that'll be right after church.
Immediately following church. If I needed to, so Melissa Drake will be here, our district superintendent, because we have to have an ordained elder do the church conference, and that's not me. And you wouldn't want me to do it anyway. It's kind of a conflict of interest, so we can bring another elder in. But Melissa will be here for worship that day, and we will, right after church. So I could, if we have people that need to be out of here at 11, just do that long a sermon.
Well, my problem is I need it later. I'm gonna be in Ankeny.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we do it right after church. And so if you don't have to leave at 11, I'm not leaving that pretty shorter thing in place, just so you know. Anything else? Thoughts, reflections, fears, joys?
Just a question, Kim, on the voting, there's not a possibility that you could join by Zoom perhaps? No, it has to be in person.
And it will be closed ballot, so there's a piece of paper. We have some folks that join us on a regular basis that are not members, and we want to hear their voice because they'll be part of this. So Melissa is going to take all the votes, even though officially we can't count them in the final vote. We can then know their thoughts, so she will ask them to put a special something on there so that when we get it back and do the counting, we know who to count officially, who not. But we want to hear everybody's voice. I didn't make the rules.
On the repair side, with 3 phases, is there a timeline? Do you have to complete all 3 phases?
No. So what we would do is we would start fundraising if we did repair, or remodel, we would start fundraising for the full amount, but only do things as the money was available. like I said, the critical part is to get that roof and tuck pointing taken care of. That is very critical. And our foundation stuff back here.
That was critical back when I was passed.
Yeah. The critical hasn't changed, it's just now we're starting to see the evidence of not doing something fully inclusive. We even talked a little bit about, and we don't know how it would work. We don't know if it can because of the pitch of this side, having some type of like an A come across so it changes the channel of the water. But we think there might be too big of a pitch over here to meet up with the 1909.
I just wonder how critical the damage is and how much it's changing in a period of time, because
I would
this has
say,
been a problem
right,
a long time.
Dave, would you say that we need to have the roof done before next fall?
Yes. Not a question.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's gone internal, so every once in a while we have water in the ceilings, in the basement, in the Sunday school rooms. You can see the paneling in several places where the walls buckled and pushed out. There is places where the brick, like the guttering up top isn't there, so there's places where that old concrete, like coming out of my office, is starting to show wear, because water's, just continually coming down on it. So, so there's parts of it that are very critical, which would be basically everything in phase 1, especially the roof number 1, tuck pointing number 2, and then this grading and stuff to get our retaining wall back in so we don't have stuff falling into the road. Those would be primary. And the windows are important because they're starting to buckle. So if we don't do something with them, and our if I understood right, when I was here when she was here, and if I understood right, like the plexiglass is no longer sealed. That is all degraded, so that's why rain can get in the windows in between there. So even some of the sills on the windows are rotted.
Is there an assessment of how critical for the structure itself, the walls, what holds the buildings up?
That's where we'd
From
have to
that-
get an architectural
from that
engineer,
room.
which is our, initial $10,000 would go to that. For them to
That's
come
not-
in,
That's not actually been,
no, cause we didn't have
Assessed.
$10,000 to do it, so. So that's what our first, number 1, obviously, to get somebody to come in and do that, and then start working.
is how critical that is, and if there's a reasonable estimate on length of time you have to deal with something, that could affect decision-making
Right.
a great deal.
So Roy looked at what's in the walls behind our paneling, which is nothing but block. And so there's nothing, that block wouldn't be totally affected, because what was happening is it's coming down the rock and then getting the paneling wet down those concrete blocks on the south side, right? Yeah,
Is
that
that
side.
the walls between the buildings?
No, that is on
You're
the
talking
outside
about the
wall.
outside.
And he did go up and explored the attic and everything, and it looks like everything's stable over here, right? I mean,
I can see
attic wise,
Yeah, I don't think it's leaking right now on a lot of the stuff upstairs on the old.
Right.
It looks like, I can see damage where it has leaked in the past.
But it's
Many
not
years ago.
currently.
No, I don't think it's
Right.
currently leaking.
and we did have some work, Dave had somebody come in last fall before winter and do a little bit of work that helped us keep the tower from leaking. But that's a very nominal fix, and it won't last long.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to decide.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Joanne, did you have something you were really looking there? Ask anything you want. That's why we're here.
So that side, are you tearing it down?
That's what you guys will decide.
If we just repaired, no. If we replaced, it's got a whole new building, 3 million.
No,
No half.
half. So this side stays. Just the 1909 comes down. So that's the 2.7 or whatever.
Which Pastor Kim and that.
From that wall that way
Going this
Yep.
way.
is, yeah. And we looked at putting, we actually did look at putting a full basement underneath of that. It adds nominally to the cost, but then we were like, is that too much space?
And you still have to have an elevator.
And we still have to have an elevator for making the basement accessible. Where if we don't have a basement over there, except for, there would probably be a tunnel under the kitchen and bathrooms for water access. But besides that, there wouldn't be anything under there. And that, so this does not have to be accessible to folks, because if Trevor gets in a wheelchair, we're hiring somebody else.
You've not yet had the guidance of the foundation on fundraising and what could reasonably be projected for the church congregation?
Not in any official context. I have spoken repeatedly with the foundation on, what does church look like going forward, those kind of things, you know. If we would have done this 10 years ago, they would have, before we considered any type of build instead of a repair, they would have said you have to have a minimum of 80 in worship and be meeting your budget plus every year for so many years. At this point, those numbers have changed, but it depends on the context. See, we aren't meeting our budget, so how many people we have in worship doesn't matter. So I don't know if we'll be approved. I used to sit on location and building for Northwest when we were Northwest District. And we took the last 5-year financials when somebody wanted to do a new build and looked at those. And if we didn't see that they were liquid, we wouldn't recommend a build. We would say, you know, can't. Now that doesn't mean that our team, you know, our location and building now for Aldersgate would do the same thing. But we would look at the numbers and say, if you aren't meeting your budget, you can't build, you know, you can't build anything. And that's why we kind of went with the phases for the remodel, because then hopefully we would not have to take out any debt. That we could take those priority things and fundraise for them right away, get them done. And then phase 2, we can fundraise for 2 or 3 years if we need to.
Well, it seems to me the clarity as far as information from the church to the congregation, it would be most helpful to have as accurate of an assessment as possible of what the potential can realistically be raised by this church. to help you make decisions.
Right, and I can call her back and talk to her and see if she'll give me a number.
Some of what you were saying heads that direction.
Right,
And
She
I
hasn't
know you
given me a
can't
rough number.
provide the answers yourself.
right, yeah.
I think some kind of realistic
It hasn't been in a group
Estimate
meeting, it's just been
needs-
in conversation
needs
with,
to be made
yeah,
available and information.
yeah. And I can see, we might be able to get her here before or at that time. Cause she's got most of the groundwork done, it would just be doing a presentation, so. Thanks, guys. Anybody else? Okay. Well, feel free to sit and talk amongst yourself if you have ideas or things you wanna bring up. Like I said, we will have that meeting on the 2nd, there will be time for question and answers, and I'll get hold of her and see if I can, get something formal before that date, that we could get out ahead of time for people to look at.
So if we're not meeting our budget right now, so if we're not meeting the budget, we can't build
Right,
or take out a loan to tear that down and build. Do we need to vote?
yes,
We still need to vote to remodel?
cause we have to have a vote because it's a big enough project that location and building has to vote on it, and we have to have a church conference first. Again, I didn't make the rules. But also, that's a chance for everybody's voice to be heard, and to know that we're going in the direction, the majority wants to go. If not, we're adjourned, although we never really started, so.